The Manchester derby is always a fixture that throws up a tasty encounter, and this WSL matchup was no different. In this tactical analysis, we break down how Manchester United came back from 2 goals down and secured Women's Champions League football for next season. We also dissect the defensive gaps that Man City exploited to take the lead and look at the genius substitution that Marc Skinner made to turn the game around. Also, we look at the red card given to Aoife Mannion and how it changed the game again. This is our tactical analysis of Manchester United 2, Man City 2. Alright, let's get into it then. Manchester United 2, Manchester City 2. This could be our analysis of the Manchester derby on Sunday. Harry, an important game in the context of the season. What were your initial takeaways from the game?
I think it was the perfect Manchester derby. It's exactly what you wanted to see. We saw goals, we saw drama, we saw controversy, we had a disallowed goal and a red card. We saw 2 very, very good football teams going at it for points and for pride. It was a very, very good match, and it was a match, as you say, that had a lot of meaning behind it, and United took that and went and qualified for the Champions League. But overall, across 90 minutes, we saw a really well contested game, and it was really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, definitely so. I thought it was a very good game. Obviously, being there helped as well, but it was a very good game to go to, worth the 16-hour round trip. But yeah, very enjoyable match. And let's start then with the disallowed goal. As a referee, Harry, why was the goal disallowed?
Well, it looks to be that Turland pushes Alexandri in the back as Turland heads the ball into the goal, and I think that it's one of those where, as the attacking team, you're going to be frustrated because there's slight contact, there's not much. But if you were the defending team, then you'd agree 100%. If that's the other way round, and that's a Man City attacker pushing a Man United defender, then Man United would expect a foul and City would be frustrated. But because it's Turland on Alexandri, it's the other way round. But I think it's the right decision when you put 2 hands on a player and your arms are outstretched and you make that pushing action into their back. You make it an easy decision for the referee because Heaslip sees the 2 arms outstretched, sees the fact that Alexandria has been nudged forwards and Turland is using her to jump to head the ball. It's a simple free kick. I think as well, if the whistle doesn't go because the whistle is blown while the ball's in the air, if the whistle isn't blown, then I think Keating would have just caught it. Because I don't think that Chiara Keating would usually just watch the ball drop into the net. But yeah, United were frustrated, but I do think it was the right decision. And even if it wasn't given, then I don't think it would have been a goal. So overall, I don't think it mattered too much, but I think it was a good decision.
Yeah, that would be my takeaway as well. A lot of United fans frustrated by it, but as I mentioned on yesterday's show, Keating would have saved that, I think, if the whistle hadn't gone. So yeah, I mean, that's the only reason. That's the only way to explain why Keating doesn't just go and save it. So I don't think it would have been a goal had the whistle not gone. So yeah, it doesn't really make a huge difference. And there was enough contact for it to technically be a foul. And let's start then by looking at the first goal in the game, Alexandria's goal. We're going to start with this Man City early build-up phase because I think it's quite an important thing to discuss. City transition quite quickly here. And I really like this because it shows that City have learned from the result in January. In January, United high press. You can see it here. They're player for player across Man City's backline. It's a very aggressive pressing structure. And as that ball gets played from Alexandria to Keating, in this screenshot, you can see just how close Toon gets to actually putting the pressure on Keating. In January, this would have been 1-0 Manchester United. Yeah. Because Keating would have fallen over or given the ball away or tried to play out to someone who just isn't there. You can see there Alexandria being tightly marked in the midfield, so she wouldn't have won the ball, and they would have probably given away possession in a high area. But instead, they go long with this. And I really liked this development, this learning to go a lot more direct, because as you see in this screenshot, it's then dropped into this attacking line. And quite crucially, it's not in the air for Caroline. It falls at Caroline's feet, and this means that she has a chance of competing for it. If it's in the air, I think this would have been a fairly easy win for Millie Turner, but instead, it's a chance for Caroline to back up into the centre-back and try and turn. She does that really effectively and spins into this wide space. As you can see from this screenshot, City have 4-on-4 now. And City have a huge overload on this left-hand side because Mannion's very narrow, Letitia's very central, and so it means there's a lot of Man City players, especially Lauren Hemp here on the overlap, running down this left-hand side. Now, obviously, the ball gets played across into this midfield space, and then Laura Coombs then plays it on here to Lauren Hemp in this wide area. Again, United have been drawn out here really effectively by Man City holding their width. United are very narrow, and that leaves this space for Hemp. It's all right to be narrow. You want to be narrow and compact, but you're defending with a back three here. So it makes it really difficult. They've been caught in transition here, Manchester United. The ball goes out here to the left-hand side with Lauren Hemp. And Aoife Mannion's got to get tighter here. So much space between Hemp and Mannion. And I get that she's trying to prevent Hemp going for goal, but Hemp just stops and waits for that run. And then as you see this next screenshot, there is this corridor, this space for Alexandri to burst into. Hemp plays the ball in there. Alexandri times the run to perfection, where she manages to catch out Miyazawa without giving away her movement too early. Really effective run. She gets the movement right as she runs into that space. Hemp plays the ball at the perfect time. It's a really nice finish from Alexandri, and that helped. That took Man City into the lead. Really nice play from Manchester City. I thought we saw here a gap in the United system we haven't seen this season. 12 goals conceded this campaign. City, or going into this game, City found 2 here, and it was a really effective transitional attack. Do when they just play that ball long, and they do things a little bit differently, because United were a bit more reluctant to commit players forward in the press, and understandably so, because they saw how detrimental that could be. So I think they found the chink in their armour, and they did very well to exploit that.
Yeah, it was good to see Man City giving up that. We say this, that the scenes like City and Arsenal don't give up enough control in games, or don't take enough risks and risk losing that control. And I think that City did it perfectly in this game. They didn't try and just play the passes around the back and make sure they had the ball, retain possession, and just bore Man United until City eventually found a goal. They took that risk.
Or United win the ball back up the pitch.
And you end up conceding. But they took that risk, they went long with it, and the gamble paid off. And sometimes in football, you have got to play those risky balls, because, as you say, that could have easily got in the air, Turner could have won the header, and then Man United would have got the ball back again. But they took that punt, and it fell to Caroline, and it worked really well. And yeah, I think it's a very, very good goal from City, but United have got to do better. I think, again, we spoke about it. Mannion coming on for Riviere completely changed the game, because in Jade Riviere, United lost one of the best one-on-one defenders in the world this season, who would have probably dealt with Lauren Hemp better out on that left-hand side. And then Alexandri, it is a very good finish, but how she is allowed to take 3 touches and then pick out where she wants to shoot and just pass it into that bottom corner. Too easy for United on the edge of their own area. No one got out to her. No one got a challenge in. And it is a very, very good finish, to be fair, from Alexandri. Not much Tyler Joyce could have done, but a really well-worked first goal for Man City. United, though, should have done better, but they got caught out, and they didn't really react to the threat that did come from it.
Yeah, exactly. I think with United, it's easy to sort of look at how they defended this moment and say, well, where is the defence? But I think, again, it's just that they are playing an aggressive pressing system. When a team plays through that so successfully, it's difficult to get back into shape.
Yeah.
I think in this example, it's the emergency defending that needs to be better. Mannion's got to get tighter to Hemp. Their players have got to get back and recover quicker. The edge of the box shouldn't be as open as it is. And it's almost seen a few times this weekend, actually. Arsenal did it a lot against Brighton. Just sort of left the edge of the box undealt with, especially from corners. And obviously then Helena Kankovic scored from one of those. But yeah, I think someone's got to be tighter with Alexandri. Miyazawa stood on the edge of the box, not really doing anything. Got to be alert to that. Got to be aware of that. So yeah, I think a lot of United players just switched off, and that's what resulted in the goal. And then 2-0 Manchester City, only 4 minutes later, a disappointing collapse for United. The corner came from a counter-attack for City again. United played a corner. It was a really weird short corner routine that just didn't really work. And yeah, they then fell to Ella Toon again, and she went down under very little pressure from a City player, and then City broke. And they counter-attacked really effectively, and they got a good shot on goal, and it ended up being a corner. And I thought that was really weak from Ella Toon in that role. I think it was one of her worst games of this season. She's been much better this year than she was last year. But I think in this Manchester derby, she was a difference maker in January in the Manchester derby. In this game, she just wasn't really on it, I don't think, at all.
No.
So, yeah, that hurt United as well. Anyway, the City counter leads to a corner, and the one player I would mark at a corner is Rebecca Nack. But I really like this routine from Manchester City. They overload the front post, so a lot of the focus is on there. and then they play that corner to just behind those players because you'd expect the ball to go to that front post. There's not really anyone in that space except from Rebecca Knack, who stood a little bit further back. She bursts into that space. Gabby George completely loses her into this pack of players, and because she's taller than everyone else, she just sort of emerges into this space, heads home, and it's 2-0 Manchester City. But George has got to trap that runner better, I think. It's difficult to do in that situation. It's a really effective corner routine from Man City, but you've got to stay tight with her.
Yeah.
And goal side, because if she's goal side...
Well, my other problem with it is, why is Gabby George the one marking Rebecca Knack? I don't think Gabby George is United's best player in the air, but do that. I get that obviously you want your tallest players, and you probably want your central defenders to be one at the front post and one and just covering the space, so they're the ones that will attack the ball.
You want them in the 6-yard box, marking more zonally to win those headers.
But when you've got a player like Rebecca Knack with her height and her ability to score from corners, I think sometimes you've just got to make a decision and go, right, get Millie Turner on Knack and just get her to take her out of the game, because it's basics from corners. Again, City took something from that Manchester derby in January, went, we're going to score corners because Rebecca Knack is really tall and can win it all the headers, and United didn't learn from that. They didn't focus on Knack from his corner, and I know it's risky because obviously if you focus on one player, then suddenly you could have other players who are getting on the end of it. But when you've got a player like Knack who has such an aerial threat, United have got to deal with it better. And it was a frustrating one because United had probably started the game the better side. City grew into it, and suddenly they looked like they were going into half-time with a 2-goal lead. And that was a frustrating moment for United, because that corner was, I think, really hurt them, because at 1-0, you can say, fair enough, City are going back into the game. But at 2-0, that puts City in a really, really good position.
Yeah. Could this have been a reason to start Dominique Janssen? The fact that she would be able to defend those corners and isn't a huge downgrade in defensive midfield?
Yeah, potentially. So, I think it potentially helps both goals. You speak about those sides who leave that edge of the area open, and it's the sides who play an aggressive pivot. It's the sides who don't have a out-and-out defensive midfielder. And I do think that potentially City would have done better with Janssen in midfield. I know that Clinton Mirzala did play well and Clinton went on to score, but Clinton didn't score from playing defensive midfield. She scored because she eventually made that run and got further up.
Dominic Janssen scores the same goal, but probably doesn't make the same run.
No, but I do think that Janssen would have given United a little bit more stability, which potentially would have helped them go on to win this game. And they may have not conceded either of these goals, really.
But to be fair, they probably should have gone on to win this game. Let's talk about the equaliser then, just before the stroke of half-time.
One back. Not an equaliser yet. They haven't equalised yet.
Sorry, one back. First goal back for Manchester United. Grace Clinton's 45-minute goal. It's a really nice run from Grace Clinton. United pick up the ball on the right-hand side. It's with Aoife Mannion. Mannion delivers it into the back post where, we were calling it from the sideline, put it back post, because Turner and Clinton were both lurking. And it's a really well-timed run from Clinton. She bursts between the centre-back and the right-back into that space, and then she heads it home from close range. Yeah. Really nice worked. I thought this was a lovely ball from Aoife Mannion. We dragged her for most of the game, and we're not done yet, but this was a good moment from her. Yeah,
it was a great ball in. It was perfect. Everything aligned. The run from Clinton was superb, and it was one of those where the ball perfectly met her run, and she just powered a brilliant header. Just powers it past Keating. But that's what happens when you time it perfectly. You don't, as a player there, Clinton didn't have to worry about getting the power or the pace behind the ball. She literally just had to run into it, and it would have gone in because the ball was that brilliant. And Keating didn't stand a chance. No goalkeeper in the world is saving that header. It was a really good header from Clinton. But great ball in from Mannion. The only positive she can take from the game, it was a perfect delivery. And it was a big goal, because there's a huge difference between going into half-time 2-0 down and going into half-time only 1 goal down. And that was a big moment in this game. United getting one back before the half. Very, very good goal. And I think that it set themselves up very nicely in the second half to go and attack the game.
Yeah, it rescued what was an otherwise really flat first half for United. I think there were murmurs of discontent around us in the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. United 6 shots in that first half, only 1 on target, which was, of course, the goal. One big chance. 46% possession to 54%. Now, annoyingly, we can't really compare accurately across the two halves, because the last 20 minutes of Manchester United was down to 10 men, to 10 players. So we saw a huge shift in momentum in that last part of the game. But I think overall, United really flat in that first half, but they came back in the second, well, right at the end of the first half and then into the second. And let's talk about the substitution then that changed this game, really. And a genius bit of play from Marc Skinner, I think, bringing off Bizet and bringing on Mallard. Initially, I sat there and was like, this doesn't make much sense. I think I even said it at the time to you. Doesn't make much sense because they already had Riviere off for injury in the 20th minute, or 24th minute, something like that. They had then they were taking Bizet off. That dramatically reduces their creativity for me. But it worked, and we saw United actually take a leaf out of the City playbook and go a lot more direct. And Mallard almost joined as a second striker, knowing they probably wouldn't get anything out of the wide areas. They decide to go a bit more direct, and so it's a long ball forwards. And it's orchestrated really nicely between Turland and Mallard. The ball falls for Turland, who flicks it on really well behind the defensive line, and Mallard's more alert to this than any of the defenders, and she bursts into that space. Suddenly she's through on goal. Really tidy, really composed finish from Melvin Mallard, and it's 2-2.
Yeah, it was a really well worked move from United, and again, I like the fact that Skinner went for that direct option. He went for pace in that front line with Mallard, because I think it's the one thing that City back line lacks a little bit. Rebecca Nack is brilliant in the air, but she's not that quick. And that really, and it caught, and especially when she got caught flat-footed, didn't stand a chance at that point. So Mallard, took full advantage. It was a really tidy finish past Keating, and that was a big goal. And at that point, United had built the momentum, they completed the comeback, and they were getting ready to go again, and they looked like they were going to go on to win the game. But yeah, a really important goal. Mallard has been a key player for United in their push to get the Champions League. I think she's been a lot more prominent than people have thought she would be, and she's done very well. Come up with some big goals. She scored the equaliser in here, scored the equaliser in the last minute against Arsenal early in the season. Mallard's come up with some big goals this season, and it was another really well taken finish in this game. And United would have probably hoped that with scoring that with 22 minutes to go, they might have gone on to win the fixture.
Yeah. I think people look at Mallard's tally this season of 4 goals, 2 assists, and sort of downplay her contribution, but she's only played 500 minutes, and she only has 3 starts to her name. When you look at her per 90 stats, she ranks quite high for pretty much all the offensive statistics, because she's not played enough. So when you look at her base numbers, she doesn't look like she's done particularly well this season. But when you look at it per 90, she's done really well. With more minutes, you'd expect that performance to come in more. Yeah. But averaging 0.67 goals per 90, really impressive. 3.88 shots per 90.
She's the type of player that will have a massive impact on next season. Now that United are in the Champions League and they're going to be playing 2 games every week, she's going to have a key part to play, because I think we'll see a lot more of Mallard, which I think is only a positive for United, because she is a very, very good player.
Yeah, very versatile forward as well. Can play anywhere across the front line. She's done really well for them this season. A very good signing from last summer. That was an important goal. Game state changing. Suddenly it's level. 60 seconds later, the game state changed again, but it wasn't in the form of a goal. It was in the form of Aoife Mannion's second yellow card. This was an utterly bizarre moment from Mannion. I can't understand the rationale of diving in that situation. Yeah,
it's really, really silly. It's a stupid decision, and it potentially cost their side the win. When your side have just equalised in the Manchester derby, and yes, you're being ran at by a Man City winger, and they are causing you issues. But once they run past her there, she's just got to let them go and back Laetitia and Turner and whoever else who was there to deal with it, because Laetitia would have come across and probably dealt with the situation, cleared the ball or won the ball back, or just put it out for a corner or anything. But Mannion she gets beat and then decides to take her out, and I don't understand why she's done this. I don't think she really knew why she did it, to be honest, in the moment, because it's so silly when you're on a yellow card with Emily Heaslip in the middle. You're asking for a second yellow, and well, I think any referee in the world would have sent her off. It's a stonewall yellow card challenge when you've already been booked in the match. It's a no-brainer for the referee. It's a really silly decision from Mannion, and it really cost Man United. I mean, it wasn't even subtle. She gets beat and then just takes her legs out, and it was really clumsy. And I think for United, it was massively disappointing.
Yeah, because they had the momentum. The pendulum had swung in their favour, and United looked like they were playing really well. They had the momentum. They looked like they're going to go on and win. And then obviously this completely changes the game. And while, yes, United still went on to get the point, they confirmed Champions League football. That's really important. They could have a win yesterday would have sent them up to second, and then they
Yeah.
only need to draw against Arsenal. Now they need to beat Arsenal to get second place, which obviously, considering where the qualifiers sit within this calendar,
Yeah.
it's really important that you don't have to play that first round of qualifiers because it's just an extra 2 games you don't need, but that are 2 weeks after the Euros final.
Yeah.
So I think that second place is really important. This could have given United a huge leg up in that. The last 20 minutes, though, everything going Manchester City's way. There's 66% possession in the second half as a result, probably, of this situation. But they couldn't really break United down.
No, they didn't do enough with it. And, again, credit to United because they did the perfect job. They sat back, they put players behind the ball, they absorbed pressure, and then when they got the opportunity to, they'd smash it long and go hold it in the corners. And, brilliant game management at that point to see this, see the fixture out with 20 minutes to go. But City just weren't penetrative enough, didn't do enough. When you have an extra player, to only have one shot on target in the whole half wasn't good enough. But when you have 20 minutes where you've got that one player advantage, they didn't use it for me. They didn't use it enough. They didn't go for the game enough, and they just didn't cause United enough problems. They should have found a way through, and they didn't. And I think that will be disappointing for Man City is that they didn't manage to win this game because saying they were 2-0 up in the first place to then get pulled back to 2-2 just for the opposition to go down to 10 players and then you don't find a winner, I think it would have been frustrating. It's not a bad point. It wasn't a bad point for City at the end, but when you had to win to keep your Champions League hopes alive, I don't think I went for it enough, and I think that was disappointing to see because if they had found a winner, there's a good chance they could get Champions League because they've got Crystal Palace on Saturday, which should be a pretty comfortable win, and United may lose to Arsenal, although I don't quite know what Arsenal are doing at the moment. But yeah, City overall, I think if I was a City fan, I'd be really frustrated because I'd have wanted to see more from City to go out and go win that game.
Just felt like there wasn't really that urgency. I think, City, they lacked a striker and those penetrative runs may have been really important. I think if you've got someone like Shaw in there, one, you've got someone to aim for in the air, which they didn't really have because they had Jill Ward up front, who isn't a bad head of the football, but she's not a striker. And so you didn't really have anyone to aim for in the air. You didn't have anyone making those runs forward that then either drag defenders and leave the space or you play it into them.
Yeah.
Both of those are ways you can break teams down. So they didn't really have a striker that they would usually rely on to sort of to break that down. They didn't have runners in the half spaces very effectively. A few times players did make those runs, but either the ball didn't go there, or the ball didn't go there quick enough, or it broke down for some other reasons. So yeah, United defended that situation really well. Again, lots of good box defending. We said that a lot about Manchester United this season. Really effective box defending, and yeah, they countered as well when they had the chance and then held the balls in the corner. It was really good game management, and they saw the game out. Some mature performance from United and good management from Skinner. Next season,
which is big, and that was the goal going into the game, was to confirm their spot in the top 3, and they did exactly that. And now they've kind of got a free hit against Arsenal. Yes, it would be important to get second, but at the end of the day, if they don't win the game, then they're still in the Champions League, and that's what matters. Full focus now for United will be on that FA Cup final as well, because if they win their next 2 games, they'll finish runners-up in the WSL and win the FA Cup, and that would be a very handy season. It would be an improvement on last season as well. So United, 2 big games now that could, I think suddenly third and not win the FA Cup is suddenly a downgrade on last season. But if they win the 2 games and they finish second and win the FA Cup, it's a completely different campaign. So they've got 2 big games now, United, that could really decide their season. I think that obviously they'll focus on the FA Cup, but to me, I think they have been the second best side in the league, and I do think they deserve to finish in that second place. So I think they will give Arsenal a really good game.
I also think as much as trophies are the coveted thing of always in football, and people will often say, getting an FA Cup win's probably better than getting Champions League football because you've actually won something. But I think actually for sustaining the club's performance, for investment to take this team to the next level, I think getting Champions League football is so much more important because, United, we talk often about how United haven't really had the investment, and it's not in the first team playing squad, it's more in their depth. They don't really have a strong bench. They've got a few players like Mallard that can have a huge impact, but they don't have a strong bench. And that's the thing that needs improving. And how do they take this team to that next level? How do they go and get some of those star players? The investment last summer was decent. They signed Bizet, they signed Turlen, they signed Dominique Janssen, they signed Anna Sandberg. There's some really nice transfers in there. And I think if they can do that again with the allure of Champions League football, with that pull, I think, Skinner's exactly right in his post-match press conference. He was talking about how if we get that investment, we will kick on. We'll be at that next level. And I think this summer's going to be really important because we're going to have London City Lionesses talking about that tomorrow. Lots of money coming into WSL. And I think a lot of the top clubs will benefit from that because there'll be rotation players and squad players who I think will see the opportunity to go and start for London City at this exciting project, and they may be swayed by that. But these top clubs can make a bit of money there. You're going to have, obviously, Arsenal, who, depending on what happens on Saturday the 25th, may be Champions League winners, or at least have that allure of the fact that we were in the Champions League final. This is the level we're competing at now, so they're going to have a huge pull. City, no idea what's happening this summer. But there's an opportunity for United, is what I mean. They're going to have that Champions League money, and they're going to have that Champions League football to pull players to United. This is a big summer for them. They have to get it right.
Yeah, because, as you say, their squad isn't good enough to compete in 4 competitions right now. That's a fact. This game proves it. No offence to Mannion, but she comes on and just isn't at the level, doesn't do well enough for the goals and gets sent off. So that is a proof that United will not go deep in these 4 competitions. With the squad they've currently got, they need to invest. They need to reinforce, because if not, they're going to have to get one of the competitions. They have to end up prioritising competitions, and what happens there is either they get knocked out of the Champions League early and it's disappointing again. They get knocked out something like the FA Cup, but that's the competition they've been brilliant in over the last 2 years, winning it, and at the very least this season are finalists. So and you don't let the league take the hit, because if you take a hit in the league and suddenly the campaign doesn't look very good. So they need to reinforce, because they need to be able to fight on all 4 fronts like the other sides can. So it is a big sign for United. It's a big sign for City as well, because I mean, it's really hard to talk about because no one has any idea what's happening there.
Well, Man City, obviously now without Champions League football for next season, I know they've been injury hit this season, but the problem City have is that there's a year left on Yui Hasegawa's contract. There's a year left on Khadija Shaw's contract. There's a year left on Lauren Hem's contract. And the problem that lies, I'm not sure Alex Greenwood, but I think that might also be soon. Some very key players there who want to win trophies, and realistically they can't win the Champions League this season now with Man City, and I don't think they'll look at the squad around them and see themselves as winning the WSL next year. And so for those players, I think they'll look at their options, and it could be a big problem for City this summer.
Because there's got to be an incentive to sign. So if City can't prove to those top players that they will be able to compete next year, the season after that, then, as you say, they'll be rightfully looking around at other clubs. I mean, that's the thing. City have got to try and convince these players to stay, but at the moment they haven't even got a manager for next year. And yes, obviously they've still got a very long time to pick that out. But you don't, and they will have a manager for next year. They just need to get one and appoint one. But they've got to get that appointment right as well. Because again, if they get that wrong and it doesn't work out, then that's definitely not going to help trying to convince players to stay.
And we also already know Alexandri yesterday announced she will be going to Barcelona. So
they've already lost one. One's already gone.
That's already someone who has captained the side on numerous occasions this season with Greenwood not there. So that's a huge voice in the dressing room. And as much as I don't think she's had a good season, very error prone this season, but she's still a brilliant player. There's a reason Barcelona want to sign her. So lots of work needed for City this summer, and it's going to be interesting to see. Could be a very active window at Manchester City, and I can't picture what that team's going to look like next season.
No,
mainly because they don't even have a manager yet. But that'll be the first point of call really, and trying to hold on some of those players. But yes, that is our analysis of Manchester United 2, Manchester City 2 United. Coming to the end of what's been a really strong season with Champions League football secured. City at the end of a very disappointing season. City out now of any chance of winning anything. United with a chance of an FA Cup title. And should be interesting to see what happens in that game next weekend. This coming weekend, though, do join Harry live for the WSL final day. Going to be a very good stream, I hope.
Yes.
And hopefully a good day. There is now something on the line between Arsenal and Man United. That will be the game that you're covering. Yes. And then, of course, for any Chelsea fans, Harry will be watching the trophy lift after the game. So that should be good fun. The WSL Final Day was a great fun stream last year, so join us for that again this Saturday. Other than that, that is everything. We'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about the London City Lionesses and what impact Michelle Kang is going to have on the WSL. Is she the saviour of life, or is she Darth Vader? That's what we're going to decipher. So join us for that tomorrow, and we'll be back to talk about Man United Arsenal on Friday. That, though, is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. See ya.